A married philosophy teacher jeopardizes his career and personal life as he assists a student who later becomes his mistress. One February morning in Saint-Etienne, philosophy instructor François instructs his students to define the unconscious from a psychological perspective. Suddenly, Mathilde, a cynical student, disrupts the class by arriving late. Consequently, the teacher confronts the pupil about her frequent absences, noting that she last attended this class days ago without apologizing for her tardiness and absences. Soon after, the angry lecturer humiliates and instructs the tearful teenager to leave the room. After she exits the room, the man directs the rest of the students to take note of their homework. After dismissing his class, François drives his car and leaves the school premises. However, along the way, he notices a pale Mathilde lying on the beach at the waiting shed. Worried about her, he kindly offers to take her home. Upon arriving home, the sick teen promptly removes her clothes and lies on the bed. When the teacher suggests calling a doctor, the student stops him, insisting that she only requires some rest. The concerned instructor agrees to respect her wishes, but promises to return and check on her later. After this, François returns to the school and requests Mathilde's file from the counselor. He discovers that the student's parents reside and work in Paris. Additionally, he learns that she has 2 brothers and had recently joined the school in January. When the professor inquires about why the student moved to Saint-Etienne, the advisor emphasizes the student's secretive nature. As he reviews her file, the instructor discovers that the adolescent lives without her parents. Moreover, in the referral letter, François uncovers that Mathilde is gifted yet delicate and has a complicated family background. She has a neglectful father, an emotionally vulnerable mother, and troublesome siblings. Intrigued by this revelation, he borrows the file and returns to the sick student's location. Arriving at the house, the teacher seizes the chance to call the doctor while the teenager sleeps. However, Mathilde wakes up as he starts speaking on the phone, prompting her to interrupt him. Grateful for his care, she explains that her lack of sleep was why she didn't feel well and thanks him for looking after her. Shortly after, François apologizes for making her cry during the morning class. However, the teenager clarifies that it's not his fault, and her tears flow when she contemplates her life. Suddenly, the now recovered teen gets up and heads to the shower. As the instructor prepares to leave for his next class, she persuades him to stay because she's afraid to be alone. Worried about her well-being, the man obliges and stays with the student to offer support. After the teen cleans up, François learns that Mathilde's dad sent her to Saint-Etienne so she can be distant from her emotionally unstable mother, who struggles with self-harm thoughts when relationships end. During their conversation, the adolescent also shares that her parents follow a Hindu philosophy. Because of this, her father became detached from everything that bothered him, including his family. Meanwhile, her mother lost touch with reality. When François asks about her brothers, Mathilde interrupts and inquires how often the instructor is involved romantically with someone. Sensing his discomfort, she swiftly changes the subject and questions about his wife's profession. The teacher then shares that his spouse is a bookstore manager and article writer. Suddenly, the teen asks if his significant other loves him, and the man confidently confirms that she does. However, the teen expresses doubt due to her cynical view of relationships, influenced by her parents' experiences. Shortly after, Mathilde insists on taking François to dinner and hands him the phone so he can inform his wife about coming home late. Concerned for the teen, the instructor accepts the invitation. While dining in a restaurant, the educator asks why the teen resents her parents, and she responds that it's because they made her exist. When the man points out that it's not easy to have children, the adolescent wonders if that's the reason why he didn't have kids. However, François evades the question and advises Mathilde to leave her problems behind and focus on her studies. Yet, the cynical pupil points out that studying is pointless because humans expire anyway. In response, the lecturer explains that diplomas can help improve one's life while they wait for it to end. The educator adds that life is more significant than she expects, and wallowing in despair is a form of vanity. However, the skeptical teen doubts his statement, asserting that desolation is painful. Upon hearing this, the optimistic man advises the adolescent to embrace life with curiosity, reminding her that she's still young. As they prepare to leave the restaurant, the teen takes her money from a cigar box that serves as her wallet. However, the teacher insists on paying for their dinner, considering she hardly ate anything. Upon leaving the restaurant, Mathilde confesses that she likes François, noting their shared sense of aloneness. However, the instructor points out that he's not alone because he has a wife, friends, and students. When he asks about her having a boyfriend, the teen shares that she finds dating someone she wouldn't even remember in 10 years to be pointless. Due to her unique way of thinking, the lecturer considers her unusual, noting that she's disillusioned at such a young age. Shortly after, he takes her home and advises her not to miss any classes so she can pass her exams. The teen attempts to invite him inside, but the man politely declines. Accepting his decision, the student kisses him on the cheek and then enters their apartment. Following this, François returns home and checks the voicemail. It turns out that his wife will be staying in a hotel to work on her article. Later, while he is sleeping, Catherine suddenly arrives and kisses him on the cheek, explaining that she chose to return home because she already misses him. The following day, François attends his class and notices that Mathilde isn't in her seat yet. Shortly after, a colleague enters and hands a note to the lecturer, informing him about a teacher's meeting to discuss Mathilde's situation. Shortly after, the teen arrives and apologizes for her poor punctuality, explaining that her math teacher spoke with her. The educator allows her to stay in his class, which makes her smile. As François continues discussing the unconscious, Mathilde raises her hand. She offers her insight, explaining that the term refers to a collection of buried memories that one can retrieve. Impressed with her answer, the lecturer gives the floor to the pupil, who confidently shares her knowledge about the subject. As her classmates ask her further questions, she confidently responds to them. Just before Mathilde can entertain more queries, the bell rings. To her surprise, her classmates give her a round of applause for her exceptional knowledge, which flatters her. As the pupils leave, François asks the bright teenager to stay after class. He praises her excellent performance earlier, but notes that she hasn't submitted any homework, which will affect her records. She then acknowledges her lack of compliance with schoolwork, revealing that the math teacher wants her expelled. When the teacher asks if the teen will stay around after the teacher's meeting, she replies that he can simply call or visit her place to update her about the result. Before the student leaves, the lecturer inquires if she promises to work hard for her studies. To his surprise, the pupil agrees to comply, noting that she'll do it solely for him. That afternoon, François meets with his co-instructors to attend the case conference. Before entering the secretary's office, the philosophy educator talks with the counselor, advocating for Mathilde to get a second chance. While this proposal sparks an argument among the teachers, they allow the pupil to redeem herself until Easter. However, they agree to expel her if she fails to comply with the school's standards. Following this verdict, an excited François heads to Mathilde's place to inform her about the decision. He volunteers to tutor her in math and help her complete her essays to pass her other subjects. Suddenly, a guy outside interrupts their tutorial session, prompting the pupil to approach him and hide from the teacher. When she returns, François angrily interrogates her about the mysterious visitor. The teen then reveals that her childhood friend was just borrowing money. Feeling suspicious, the educator inquires why they had to conceal themselves to transact. Strangely, Mathilde avoids the question and urges them to resume studying. Suddenly, the teacher grabs his suitcase, intending to leave due to her behavior. Nevertheless, the teen blocks his way, attempting to kiss his cheek. However, the educator avoids her gesture and exits the door. Upon François' arrival home, Catherine excitedly shares that someone is interested in buying the last copy of his philosophy book. She asks if he's willing to sell it to the interested buyer. However, just as the author is about to respond, the phone rings, prompting his wife to take the call. The bookstore manager hands it to her husband upon picking up the telephone. It turns out the caller is Mathilde, who simply wants to wish him goodnight. After hanging up, the man feels puzzled about his pupil's flirtatious actions. Later in bed, Catherine inquires about what's bothering her husband, encouraging him to share his thoughts. The instructor opens up, expressing how his brilliant student has profoundly impacted him. He describes the encounter as the first time he has ever met someone exceptional. Additionally, he reveals his desire to guide the adolescent further along the path of wisdom. Alarmed by her husband's connection with his student, the jealous wife confronts François, questioning if he has feelings for the teen. The instructor promptly reassures his spouse, stating he doesn't fancy someone younger than him. The following morning, Catherine picks up the phone twice, but there's only silence on the other end. On the third ring, François answers, and Mathilde's voice comes through, filled with excitement about meeting him at school. During class, the teacher assigns an essay to his students. As he walks around the classroom, he sits beside the teen and praises her writing but advises her to double-check for spelling errors. Suddenly, the adolescent moves her hand closer to his, causing him to move away quickly. As François stands at the back of the classroom, he observes Mathilde from afar and finds himself developing feelings for her. Later, during their tutorial session, the instructor discovers that the teen was the one who purchased the last copy of his book. The following day, Mathilde is absent from class, prompting the teacher to visit her at home. As he knocks on her locked windows and door, he receives no response, and no one opens the door for him. Upon backing up his car, François notices a crowd of punk people coming out of the teen's place. Concerned, he hurries there and confronts the adolescent about her absence from school. However, upon entering her apartment, he spots liquor bottles inside, prompting him to throw them out the window. Sensing his concern for her, Mathilde embraces her teacher and kisses him, leading to an intimate encounter. Following this moment, they happily spend time together in nature before having their tutorial session. Later, as François returns home, he finds Catherine waiting for him. His wife then confronts him about his affair with the brilliant student and presents a letter that arrived in the mailbox that day. Upon opening the envelope, the instructor finds a note that reads, "François loves another woman." However, he denies the accusation and reasons that a resentful pupil must have sent the message. On Easter, the instructor attends the teacher's conference about Mathilde's case. Due to her improving performance, the philosophy lecturer's colleagues praise him for encouraging the pupil. The teen invites the instructor to her place to celebrate the good news. They drive off in his car, and the counselor spots them from a distance. After sleeping together, Mathilde receives a call from her father, informing her that her mom is in the mental hospital again and wants her to come to Paris the next day. Upon learning this, François insists on driving her to the location, but she refuses. When the instructor asks if her brothers know what happened to their mom, Mathilde reveals that they lost contact with their siblings. She then discloses that her family members got in trouble and underwent treatment due to their involvement with illegal substances. Shortly after, the teen discloses that she also joined her brothers at the time. However, she wasn't institutionalized because the police didn't suspect her. When François asks about her experience while her brothers were undergoing treatment, the pupil reveals that she became a courtesan for 3 years and quit independently. Upon learning this, the instructor doubts her story, suggesting that illegal substance users are skilled liars. However, the adolescent emphasizes that she truthfully shared her past because she trusted him. To assure him of her honesty, the student offers to give the teacher her number in Paris so he can contact her while she's there. After sharing a passionate embrace, a hesitant François suddenly backs away. Before he exits the door, Mathilde slips her contact details onto his coat and then attempts to allure him. However, the instructor rejects her advances and heads home. When he returns home, the educator hears the phone ringing but refuses to pick it up. Curious about the mystery caller who has been frequently calling, Catherine confronts her husband, but he doesn't respond. The wife then asks her husband if he told Mathilde about the note. However, instead of revealing their affair, the man evades the question and suspects that perhaps his spouse wrote the letter to gauge his reaction because she's jealous of the teen. Offended by the accusation, Catherine impulsively grabs the glass and throws it at the mirror, breaking it. She cuts off the line when the phone rings again and then weeps inside their bedroom. Shortly after, she proposes they spend a few days apart during the holiday to think things through. She also adds that if the lecturer can't stop the calls, she'll take the matter into her own hands. While his pupils are engrossed in a film the following day, François misses Mathilde badly. After class, the adolescent reaches out to him, sharing distressing news about her mother's self-harm. She recounts her mother's words about her near-death experience, likening it to melting into a beautiful ocean. When asked if he can follow her in Paris, the adolescent declines politely, mentioning that she has responsibilities to take care of her family. However, she reassures the instructor that she will return to Saint-Etienne as soon as possible. Later that day, Mathilde surprisingly visits him at his home, prompting them to spend an intimate time together. Shortly after, the adolescent asks him to end things with his wife and live with her. However, the man refuses her request, noting that she's still a teenager and he's going to be an old man in 10 years. Upon hearing this, the pupil confesses her genuine love and explains that it won't change despite their difference. However, François points out the relationship will be frowned upon due to the age gap. In response, Mathilde proposes that he transfers to another town, or she'll hide and become a hermit, as long as they're together. When the instructor shows hesitation, she tells him to approach life with an open mind, just as he advised her on their first date. However, he is firm in choosing his wife over the teen. Because of this, the teen suggests they make love for the last time before officially ending their affair. Upon arriving home, Catherine notices her husband lying alone in bed, clearly feeling lonely and sad. She embraces him, sensing his emotions, and offers reassurance that he will eventually overcome his feelings for the teenager and that he made the right choice. He opens up to his wife and confesses that Mathilde asked him to leave her. Still, he struggles to provide a clear answer when his spouse inquires whether he stayed because he genuinely loves her or because the teen's age played a factor in his decision. After the holiday break, when François returns to school, he observes Mathilde flirting with Carpentier, her new boyfriend, during his lecture. Overwhelmed by jealousy, he confronts her in front of everyone, asking her to stay after class so he can speak privately about her inattentiveness. After dismissal, Carpentier insists on staying and joining the conversation between the lecturer and his girlfriend. He discloses that they are living together. Frustrated and irritated, the educator orders the couple to leave the room, clearly upset by the situation. Later, François spots Mathilde making out with another man behind their classroom. Because of this, he immediately hits the promiscuous student, prompting the teen to assert that he has no right to do that. That night, Catherine shares with her husband that she has been receiving threats from the teen. The adolescent continues to harass them with multiple phone calls, leading the instructor to hang up the handset in frustration and concern. The following day, François discusses the possibility of expelling Mathilde or transferring her to another class with the counselor. However, the woman hesitates as they lack compelling reasons to take such actions. Suddenly, Katrine calls François in a panic, revealing that two guys have vandalized the windows of their bookshop. Alarmed, the lecturer immediately arrives at the scene to comfort his partner. However, the manager discloses that another guy in a van had previously bumped into her, and her editor has been receiving threats to fire her. She immediately suspects that Mathilde or her accomplices are responsible for the incidents. Upon learning this, François interrupts Mathilde's English class and brings her to an empty classroom to confront her. She passionately embraces the teacher when he slaps her, leading them to spend an intimate time together. Suddenly, a student stumbles upon their intimate act and hastily spreads the news, drawing the entire school's attention toward them. The next day, Mathilde's mother passes away, and François faces the consequences at school for being involved with the teen, resulting in his transfer to Dunkirk. The affair leads to Katrine leaving him, and the adolescent disappears from their lives. A year later, upon returning home from work, the instructor receives an unexpected call from a police officer, delivering the news of the teen's passing. The lecturer discovers that his former student had rented an apartment near his school. In isolation, Mathilde spent her days gazing out the window, secretly observing the lecturer in his classroom for 2 months. Following this, François receives his philosophy book, discovering that the teen had written his contact details on the back and a heartfelt story on the front cover. He also finds the adolescent's note on the wall that reads, "There's the ocean, François," suggesting that her demise has a profound connection with the ocean, echoing what her mother had mentioned before her passing. Afterward, the instructor leaves the apartment and heads to the beach. There, he sits alone in the sand and silently grieves the loss of his exceptional pupil.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.